Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Lounging with Lisa, the video series that has me lounging while coming at you with thoughts of the day. Oh, I just wanted to play one of my little games with you. First of all, the birds are all over here. They're so cute. They're on the ground getting some, seed that fell out of the feeders. They're out of control, though. They're going through suet madly. So, I'm going to go into Meadville Farm and Garden, I think, this week at some point. Because they make their own bird seed in there for the birds that are indigenous to this region. Indigenous. Sometimes I say things that don't sound right, so forgive me. Okay, I wanted to play a game, a little thought game. Okay, imagine that, 50 years ago, Australia... How would this work? 50 years ago, Australia started to do... I love how I use Australia for these. Started to... let's say that 50 years ago, Australia dropped a nuclear bomb on... just name someplace. On Libya. I don't know where that came... Okay, Australia drops a nuclear bomb on Libya. And becomes this superpower with total nukes and blah, blah, blah. And then we really don't have them, but we start to make them here in the United States of America. We start to produce nuclear weapons. Next thing we know, Australia is surrounding us wildly, along with maybe another country or two. We'll just say them for now. They locate in Canada. They're on the border. They're on the border of Mexico. They're out in the Atlantic off the coast of Florida, and in the Pacific off the coast of Oregon. And they are demanding that we stop our nuclear weapon production. What would you do? How would you feel about that? Okay, now let me come clean about this. I just want people to put themselves in other people's shoes, like other countries. Because, really, we have surrounded countries, either the NATO alliance or us, and demanded that they quit doing stuff. Like, I demand that you quit your nuclear weapon program or even your nuclear power program and stuff. Yet, we're allowed to have them. Why are we so delightful that the United States is allowed to do whatever, and we declare who's allowed to do... Who else is allowed to partake? It's just weird. So I'm saying that the United States, in that case of Australia, would really more than likely have been making the nuclear weapons to protect themselves in case of this crazed Australian coming after us. No offense to Australians, because I do love them dearly. So, at any rate, I just found out something interesting or was reminded of it or whatever. I can't keep up with everything, ladies and gentlemen, but it's about the North Korea situation. Evidently, in 2015, they offered a deal, North Korea did, that they would stop with their manufacturing shenanigans, but they wanted something in return from the US of A, and that would be to quit doing these drills and whatnot off their shore. I forgot that in my little mind game I was playing, if they were doing these military drills off the coast of Florida and Oregon and everything. I think you get the picture, though. They wanted us to quit that, and then they would rein in their nuclear situation. We did not do it. This was under Barack Obama. Recently, I believe, if I heard right, that they offered that again, and Trump's not going to go for it either. So, they've put some ideas on the table, ladies and gentlemen, but, we don't want to play ball because we're the only ones allowed to tell other countries what to do. It's really unbelievable. What is the deal? Like, we're totally righteous and we're the only ones who dropped these nuclear weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's just strange to me. I'm not a war-type person. You might have noticed that. I'm really... I suppose I am... What do they call me? Oh, don't answer that. A peacenik, yes, but there's something else. An isolationist. That might be a little harsh. I don't know. I'm against offensive actions. If somebody can... You know what? So was General Smedley Butler. He had In that book, War is a Racket by Major General Smedley Butler, written in the 1930s, I believe, or 1940. I think he died in 40, excuse me. Of course, he points out the true purpose of these wars. It's a complete racket. All wars are banker wars. All wars are strictly to enrich the military-industrial complex or the corporations that, you know, for whom they are working, basically. Oh, and I know this will come as a big shock to you, but there are tons of natural resources underneath the feet of North Koreans. So, gee, I wonder what we want to do over there. Now, I don't remember where I was going. I was going somewhere, and then I had to get a drink of this coffee. Oh, yeah, War is a Racket, blah, blah, blah. Okay, in that book, if I'm not mistaken, and I could go back and look because it's right in my house, he said that he didn't think that troops should be allowed, I think it was any more than 200 miles off our coast of the United States, like the Navy. And it might have just been 200 miles in general. I mean, imagine if we would have followed those rules and regulations, ladies and gentlemen. The Defense Department used to be called the War Department. That's what it should still be called. What is defensive about going in, to another country on behalf of a corporation or on the behalf of our dear sweet Israel to gobble up the natural resources for that particular country and use our soldiers and whatnot basically as, hitmen for the corporations. Now, I'm not blaming the soldiers. A lot of them have no clue. They think they're in there for noble reasons. So do not get outraged and claim that I'm against soldiers. A lot of these people have no idea what's happening until they get there. And then when they get home, I think that's a lot of the reason for the PTSD, because they realize, what the hell am I doing? What's going on here? So I think that if we followed Major General Smedley Butler's advice, we'd be in way better shape. Not being able to go, I think it was 200 miles away from our coast. Defense, after all. Defense spending, Defense Department, defense. Please give me a break, ladies and gentlemen. I demand the Pentagon be audited immediately. I demand the Federal Reserve be audited. The Federal Reserve is not connected to the government. It's private. I know people think that, a lot of people that say that are conspiracy nuts, but I don't know why. Just look it up. It's not. It's a private banking cartel. Speaking of which, I listened to a very interesting lecture of that Paul Hellyer. He used to be the defense minister in Canada. And he really unpacked things in a way that was easily understood about the Council on Foreign Relations, and then I think the Bilderberger Group and some other agency, Trilateral Commission, maybe something, I don't know. How all this works in terms of, the different, he calls it the cabal, and how, the banking's worked into it and whatnot. Remember the other day when I was talking about the city-states, Washington, D.C. is one, and then London is one, and then the Vatican is a city-state. Well, also, if you think about it this way, like Washington, our little city-state here, there is some thought that that's sort of the military. I'm speaking kind of in New World Order terms. I'm sure you've heard about the New World Order, where the muscle comes from the United States military, the banking center is in London, and then the religious center is in the Vatican. So that kind of makes it a little bit easier. But I do recommend, easier to understand, that you check into this Paul Hellyer. I think it's Hellyer. He was the former defense minister in Canada. He covers a wide range of issues, including like the cover-up with the UFO situation out in Roswell and other places, and how this fits into a lot of different things. He's not just on the UFO thing all the time, because he gets into this, really talks about the cabal, the cartels, and all this, and how it's organized through these various governments, with the UFO thrown in for good measure. Now, which brings me to this. I listened to a little bit ago while showering, a little, it was, Lionel was a guest on some talk show, I forget the name of it, Lionel Nation. And somebody brought up Neil deGrasse Tyson, and Lionel called him a gatekeeper. Oh, he's the biggest gatekeeper in terms of UFOs and extraterrestrial life situations, whatever. And Lionel said it's just so crazy that we can say what we want these days. Like, we can just say things that are untrue or not really leading people in the right direction. Like, he gave the example of, we can say Russia hacked the election, and everybody, claims there's total proof. And then, on the other hand, people will say there's absolutely no proof for UFOs or extraterrestrial life, when there's plenty of proof. It's just not really talked about in the mainstream media. So, I mean, there are people that have gotten Freedom from Information Act paperwork, by going through the Freedom of Information Act. I think that's what it is. And received a lot of details about how things were covered up or what happened or what sightings. And there's plenty of amateur videos. There's plenty of evidence. It's just that it's not something that's talked about in the mainstream. We're too busy, clutching pearls over a Donald Trump tweet or something than to really keep the people informed. Also, through a Freedom of Information Act request, they, because a lot of people kind of, I think, roll their eyes when I mention the CIA is deeply embedded in our media. That has come out now. It's not a conspiracy. You can look it up. That the CIA, right around the 50s, I think it was, they were able to infiltrate the media. So, not a conspiracy. CNN was a biggie with that. That CNN was kind of started so that, because it was global, and all over the earth, you could see the particular talking point they were trying to push, like, so-and-so's an evil dictator that's hurting his people, we have to save them. I really wish that Donald Trump and any president, whatever, would save the United States people. Why don't we just concentrate on our own people? And that's what he said he was going to do when he campaigned. So I think, some people that voted for him are a little bit upset that he's carrying on these regime things and regime changes and this war mentality. I mean, he went on about really not policing the world, and he didn't like the idea of regime change, and he wanted to go after ISIS, which, that's socially acceptable, I think. But, so that was kind of a letdown for a lot of people. That's one thing about Trump that I liked in his campaigning, was that he was, I don't want to say a peacenik, but he was certainly he sounded less hawkish than the other people. So, all right, I guess that's all. My gosh, I've covered a strange variety of things here. I've got to go downtown and deposit some money, and that's all. Okay, Lounging with Lisa, the video series that has me lounging while coming at you with thoughts of the day. Please join together with me. Drop your political identity. Let's focus on issues in order to make this world a better place, one day at a time, baby.